Okay. Oh, wait, hold up.
We're really excited.
That looked like a boss. Okay, that's... Yep, that's a boss.
We're really excited about getting this game into players' hands, letting them experience this massive world.
A main cornerstone of D4 is play your way. As a player continues to advance through the story...
Play your way, he says. Okay, hold up. He says, play your way. Last I heard, they were also saying that eventually the cost to change your abilities is gonna be so high that you would rather just re-roll and create a new character, which sounds like the opposite of play your way. Of all the things I've heard so far about Diablo 4, the thing that sounds the shittiest was when they literally said, like, eventually the respec cost will be so high that you'd rather just re-roll your character. It's like, please do not let that make it to live. I do not want that. I do, in fact, want to play my way, and that's the opposite of that.
Activities that provide meaningful progression, no matter their playstyle.
Players will be able to keep progressing in the narrative of the game. Alongside that, the whole team has worked on crafting a variety of different experiences players can pursue.
We're going to have an entire world of Sanctuary for our players to offer. There's going to never be an absence of something to do.
After the player has finished the campaign, there's a lot more game to go and participate in. They gain access to a special, what we call capstone dungeon that they have to complete. Once they're able to finish this capstone dungeon, they're going to gain access to the first world tier.
As you complete the world tier, it will open up the opportunity for you to go into your next world tier. That involves unlocking powerful loot.
Okay. They're saying capstone dungeon.
Gain access to the first world tier.
As you complete the world tier, it will open up the opportunity for you to go into your next world tier.
So we had 2 active on the beta, Adventurer and Veteran, and unless you're a complete fucking noob, you played on Veteran, right? Of course. Although I was actually hearing some people say, like, if you're playing Druid, who is actually so bad, that you might as well just play on Adventurer, because it makes the enemies easy enough that you can actually kill them as a Druid while leveling up. And they figured that that was actually a like net benefit playing Druid on easy mode for leveling up. But then it's like, whatever, enemies get harder and presumably drop even more loot as you go to the higher level world tiers.
That involves unlocking powerful loot, new items, and more advantages for your player to have a better opportunity at endgame.
Whether you're a fan of dungeons, PvP, or just roaming around the world, there's a way to continue your Diablo adventure long after hitting max level. As your character continues to grow in power, you'll start with the skill tree and expand out into the Paragon system.
Okay, we've seen the skill tree before. We've seen glimpses of the Paragon board, and it looked really intimidating, like this big-ass board with a whole bunch of little things to click on and runes to move around. Yellow Tonka, you say you're hyped to min-max Diablo 4 as soon as it drops. Spreadsheets based on beta info already set up. Hell yeah.
A lot of the choices the players make are grounded on skills themselves and the fantasies associated with those skills. The Paragon board is a place where we're allowed to have a lot more depth, a lot more customization.
Wait, hold up. Let's go through these slowly. They're showing us a lot here.
Skills themselves and the fantasies associated with those skills. The Paragon board is a place where we're allowed to have a lot
intelligence,
more depth, a lot more customization. Paragon board, more depth, a lot more customization.
Dexterity. I missed one. One of them had like a bunch of actual text. Wanted to see if it was like an ability change.
With those skills.
Dexterity, strength, intelligence. Cheap Shot. You deal 5% increased damage for each nearby enemy that is crowd controlled up to 25%. Okay, so that's like a whole, like, talent. That's not just a passive skill bonus. That is interesting. That makes this Paragon board, to me, much more interesting than just filling out passive stat bonuses. This is like something unique, a power boost that's unique to the Paragon board, right? Okay, we should change it back to full speed mode now.
More depth, a lot more customization, many more options as you go.
You can rotate the board, so you can choose a different path if you're like, I want to do more strength-based things, or I want these particular boons or glyphs. You can chart your path through it, and they're really a way for you to keep expanding your character and making it uniquely yours.
Similar to the Paragon boards is the Codex of Power. It's an in-game system that holds the
Okay,
aspects.
we know about the Codex of Power and the imbuing stuff. We got all of that in the beta. We already have charts of like offensive aspects can go on these item slots and resource aspects can go on those item slots, so you can plot out like if you're trying to max out the number of offensive aspects you're using, you know, for this, because different characters can even use different weapons. Like you can like the offensive ones can go in amulet, ring, weapons, gloves. So that's 2 rings, 2 weapons, well, 3 weapons for a rogue, gloves, and amulet. Like, that's the max for offensive. Okay, we figured that system out, but let's see what they have to say about it.
You are able to complete a dungeon, and they will have a chance to drop an aspect that you can pick up.
And what this allows players to do is
Chance to drop an aspect? In the beta, it was guaranteed. You did the dungeon, you got the aspect associated with the dungeon.
items they're finding in the world and make them more powerful, turn them into legendary items.
It's really special to discover what kind of playstyle really means the most to you. Every part of Sanctuary is fulfilling and satisfying. Dungeons in particular are really close to my heart. Nightmare Dungeons are going to give the players the opportunity to experience a dungeon that they might have already experienced in their past playthroughs. They'll enter the dungeon with a found sigil that alters the playstyle and the intensity of the dungeon.
Okay.
More difficult, and they have additional objectives, and then
Okay. This is good. I mean, they were talking, a lot of the complaints were about how the dungeons were kind of repetitive and the objectives were kind of boring. If, like, amplifying them into Nightmare Dungeons, if this is, like, an easy thing to do, and maybe that can provide some of the, you know, additional variability and difficulty that people wanted with the dungeons.
you also have affixes, which add a degree of difficulty for you and your group to work through.
One of my favorite affixes that you can find in Nightmare Dungeons is actually called Hellgate. Occasionally, these portals will open up throughout the area that will just pour out different monsters that aren't native to that region for you to also be dealing with while you're trying to handle everything else inside the dungeon.
Sounds like I'm just getting more loot because I'm killing more monsters.
In Diablo IV, and any one of them can become a Nightmare Dungeon by finding a Nightmare Sigil and then using it to activate the Nightmare version of that dungeon space.
Everything's a little darker, everything's more difficult. It's going to add a little bit of a twist of flavor on your particular dungeon.
There's some targeted activities in Diablo IV that suit what you're feeling in the mood for.
The Forces of Hell are starting to have more influence in certain parts of Sanctuary in the vast interconnected overworld of the experience. And as the players are going into Helltide areas, they'll find even more powerful monsters.
Okay.
And by killing them, they'll be able to gain these special shards they can take to go and use to purchase these big rewards are available at these caches that are found littered throughout Helltide areas.
The sky darkens and the rivers run red.
Oh, this is the
beasts fall
PvP
from the
thing.
sky,
I remember this
monsters
now.
get harder. We really want to create
I think?
new experiences for the players. There's one I really like called Whispers of the Dead, which you get from the Tree of Whispers. The Tree of Whispers is grim and a little gruesome, but it's also something mystically haunting and kind of beautiful.
The tree has a little bit of a grudge against our players, and it would like for them to go serve its needs. So you're going to go serve these bounties, gather different rewards, different items, and bring them back to the tree in hopes that it can exchange you something really meaningful.
Maybe you're going to go to the Fractured Peaks and take out some
Okay,
werewolves.
let's back it up. What was that?
Different rewards, different items,
Look at
and bring
that
them back to
screen.
the tree in hopes that it can exchange you something
Tree
really
of Whispers, choose your reward, collection of one-handed weapons, collection of boots, collection of gauntlets. So it looks like I'm choosing between like an assortment of random items of a particular item type.
meaningful.
Maybe you're going to go to the Fractured Peaks and take out some werewolves that are rampaging in a town. They're contained activities that you can do alone or in a group. We really wanted to create variety for people to be able to spend time where they wanted to in the world. It's very cool the way it's been put together, and I can't wait for people to see it, to be honest.
Wait, maybe this is the PvP
In
thing.
Diablo 4, we have a focus on the world of
Yeah,
Sanctuary.
okay.
And there are parts of that world that we call the Fields of Hatred, where Lilith's presence in Sanctuary has begun to seep through and manifest these poisonous areas throughout the world. When players go to these regions, they get to engage in player versus
Yep,
player
okay,
conflict.
this is the PvP
These
one.
offer
Helltide
opportunities
is
for
a
the player
different
to
thing.
collect shards. But there is a little bit of a catch. In order to get these shards back to town, you'll need to purify them. Other players will definitely know that you're attempting to purify your shards, so you'd better be prepared to fight if you're going to be playing any PvP, and be prepared that you might lose some stuff in the meantime.
Once they've got the purified shards, they can take these, go back to nearby towns to sell them, and then use that to buy a whole bunch of like interesting cosmetic items and rewards.
It's a place for people who really love...
That looks like another
Shards, they can take
gamble
these,
window,
go back
like
to
the
nearby towns
Obols.
to sell
Let's
them,
look
and
at
then
this.
Use that to buy a whole bunch of like
Cap, tunic, gloves, boots, pants, unsavory oddities, vendor. Yeah, these are, so the red shards are the like tokens you get from the PvP, and it looks like you're gambling and buying. It looks like he's gonna buy a glove. It looks like the same as the gamble from the Obols vendor.
interesting cosmetic items and rewards.
Yep, he just added a glove to his inventory, lost 2,000 shards. Turns out it's a blue, so unlucky. Bolting Strider's hand wraps of just discharging, it says right there.
It's a place for people who really love PvP.
So
and
it sounds like the reward from what we see here, the reward from the PvP is pretty, it's not unique. And it's not even that special. It looks like it's just another gamble window.
want to still get loot and still increase their character's power. If that's the way they want to play, they can.
Launch is just the beginning. One of the things we're really focused on is creating a living, breathing set of updates for players to engage with after the game has gone live.
It's really just going to be a way to keep coming back and experiencing more Diablo 4 in fresh ways.
We're really eager to hear all of your experiences and just enjoy the entire story with you all.
Whoa, that guy looks cool. This is maybe another world boss, perhaps? I have no idea, but he looks awesome. Given how zoomed out the camera is, like when we did Ashava the Pestilent on the beta, the camera was zoomed out like this to make the character so small, which makes me think this is, in fact, another world boss. Okay. Cool.